All right, everybody, welcome to Gogotalx, brought to you by GOGOTIX. I'm your host, Malachi Johns, and I am joined today by someone who is much better on the microphone than I am myself. Welcome to you, big brother Konan. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you coming on, man.
Well, thank you very much for having me, man. It's an honor, and I greatly appreciate it.
Oh, man. Love it. So why don't you give everybody, I mean, I know for me at least, and I may be wrong about this, but I guess what I most associated you with before I knew you was 92Q, because you were there for a very long time. I grew up in Annapolis. We had the DC stations and the Baltimore stations. We listened to both. But you know, what I didn't know until I got to know you was that you are originally from DC and, you know, grew up in the go-go scene. So why don't you give everybody a background sort of on your history in radio, the entertainment business, and go-go in general?
Well, yeah, I've been going to go-go since I was a teenager, since I was a kid. I was sneaking into go-go's when Chuck was doing stuff like the Howard Theater and stuff. I would act like a roadie. What they call a roadie is a person that carries in the equipment and sets up and stuff. So when Chuck was at the Howard Theater, I would sneaking there from time to time, and one day he's just saying stuff to me like, "Hey man, you know, what you doing?" He said, "You a roadie now?" I was like, "Yeah, actually, I am." So you know, it's just some of the things like that got me interested in music and go-go and stuff. Plus, go-go's back then when I was growing up, man, go-go's were outside. They were free. They started off being free. Chuck was the only one that could charge for a go-go. Bands like Red Essence, Mass Extension, Hot Cold Sweat, Trouble Funk, EU, Air Raid, Pepper, all those type of bands, man, they would play outside in the areas. Of course, like Reds and the Boys, they played off Caper. I would be on Caper all the time with those guys just hanging out, man. So the go-go scene really influenced me, and Kathy Hughes and Albert Liggins, I owe a lot of what I do to them. Actually, radio saved my life. Hughes, I give her credit all the time, and I tell people that don't know that, you know, I call it from the streets to the radio. And she took me out the streets and put me on the Go-Go show, and you know, it grew from there.
And what station was that?
1450 AM WOL. It means we offer love.
And what year was that?
85. My first radio show. I mean, I first got on radio in 85. And,
okay.
and the crazy thing is, Miss Hughes is still the same person to this day that she was that I met in 85. And of course, you know, she's multi. I mean, she's had as many as 70 something radio stations all at once. She got TV, she got radio, she's got print publications, she's got online, everything, but she is still the most down-to-earth person that I've ever met in my life. And she's one of the only people that I have ever really listened to. Because growing up as a kid, you know, you were taught that men are strong, men are supposed to carry the weight, this, that, and the other. She's been undeniably the strongest woman that I've ever met in my life. So, you know, I've always listened to her because not only did she have passion for go-go, she's always been deliberate in thinking and knowing what she wanted to do.
Gotcha. Okay, so I want to get into that a little bit later because there's a little bit of controversy around her and go-go, etc. That came up with the after the the documentary. So I want to get into that a little bit later. But first, I want to get through. Okay, so you're at 1450 WOL. She brings you in. How did you even know to apply? How did that even come about?
Well, I was going to college, and I was coming home, and I was doing some other things, and Teaser, a friend of hers, told her about me. I was writing computer programs at the time. I was doing computer science. I was DJing, and this guy named Don King, not the Don King in boxing, but a gentleman named Don King. I never forget. He came to school, and he had DJ equipment and nothing else. He had no luggage, no nothing. He bought all his DJ equipment. By the end of the semester, though, he had a car. He was doing parties on other campuses. He had clothes. He had everything. And I remember asking him, I said, "Can you teach me how to do that?" He said, "Yeah." I'm scratching, and I broke one of his needles. And he was a little pissed off, but I bought him a new needle, and he was teaching me how to finesse the turntables and do stuff like that. So I was doing the computer science stuff. I was writing programs, like the programs you hear for the commercials run on radio. I wrote that program when it was MS-DOS and Tris-DOS computer language. Bob Ferguson, Bob Dews, those were a couple of guys that were there at the time. And I never forget Neville Waters in a production room. I was also reading commercials. He caught me in a production room DJing and reading commercials, but also talked on the mic. He said, "What, you want to be on the air?" So I was like, it's okay. But Miss Hughes made that decision when something happened with the person that was on air doing something. She came to me and asked me if I could do the Go-Go show. And I said, yes. And after I said, yeah, that weekend I went on, and, things kind of progressed from there. And that was it. It just took off. I actually helped. I didn't help. I recommended, and I put together because somebody that Miss Hughes and Alfred had hired at the time kept telling me they weren't going to treat me right. They weren't going to do this. Come on over to 1580. I can do this. I can do that. And I was like, no. I said, but this is what I'll do. I said, I'll give you, put DJ, and DJ Cool will verify this. I put DJ Cool over there, DJ Flex, Rico, Dangerous D. I gave him a whole group of people to start that station.
So how did you know those guys? Were they already on WOL, or how did you know Flex and Rico and all those guys? Just from
because I was always in the clubs, and I was always at the Go-Go's, and they were DJs along with James Funk. James Funk was a DJ too, but Funk wasn't interested in the 1580 move. But and then he had Cool call me, and Cool was like, "Look, they really want you over here, man. You can do the morning show, you can do this, you can do that." And I quite frankly, to be honest with you, I said, "Listen, it's not going to work. You're going to cannibalize yourself. That station is going to eat your FM station up, and then you're not going to be able to. It's not going to work." So I stayed at WOL. I never told Miss Hughes. I never told Alfred that I was being courted by the programmer or the person that was putting that station together over there, because I knew I wasn't going to go. So I just gave him, and Flex is still doing it. Rico's still in, they were all the hottest DJs at the time in the clubs that were playing Go-Go. Flex was at the Concert, which ended up being Legend and something else. Rico was out in Suitland and out at the Oak Tree and different places DJing. Cool, of course, is legendary. I've been following Cool since the room. Me and Cool been friends forever. We used to stay up till 7 o'clock in the morning playing John Madden, but I'm not going to go into it.
Gotcha. All right. So after WOL, then what happens?
After WOL, Miss Hughes and them started acquiring other stations, and one of them was KYS. So at the time, KYS was an all-male staff. Nobody knows that. It was Ryan Cameron in the morning. I was doing 10 to 3. Then Easy Street was doing 3 to 7. And this guy named N.O., the native one, he used to be on the air going, "Hi."
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, so N.O. was doing 7 to 12 midnight. And then at night, I was doing 7 to 12 in Baltimore. So I would do 10 to 3 in the morning. 10 to 3 in the afternoon, and then I would go into Landover and take a nap at a friend's house, and then I would leave Landover and drive to Baltimore and do 7 to 12 midnight.
Hustling. Yeah, well, I guess so. Maybe I was aware because I remember the name one. So that must have been. I must have been aware of you on KYS too, but then I just morphed it in my head together because you were on 92Q at the same time as well. So,
right.
Yeah, gotcha. So, okay. All right. So you're at KYS for how long?
I'm not exactly sure how long that. It's probably about a year and a half. I did both of them for like a year and a half, and then I remember Miss Hughes came to me and said, "Listen, I'm really trying to focus on being the #1 station in Baltimore." Mm-hmm. She said, "In this new station, I really need you to focus on that because we were going up against V103 in Baltimore at the time."
Yeah, I was going to ask if that was your competition. I remember V103. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So Frank Ski was at night, and I was at night. So one of the things that I had to do is I had to beat the competition at night. Mm-hmm. And he was their the main person there. So she said, we're gonna figure this out. But she said, I just want you to stay in Baltimore and focus on that night show, that 7 to 12 midnight show." Gotcha. And I never forget it when our ratings came out. First, I was interim PD at 92Q. Mm-hmm. And then I stopped being. I resigned from being the PD. Pam Summers and I talked, and I told her, I said, I can't come in every day at 8 o'clock in the morning, stay tonight, and focus on beating Frank. And she said that makes sense. So after that, when we finally beat Frank, we moved from nights to morning after he lost in the ratings, and him and Lady Jean went to the mornings, and then they brought in Big Mike Johnson, and then after Big Mike Johnson, they brought in Lorenzo Ice T. Thomas, and then after that, the station kind of closed up, folded.
V103 folded.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. So you're getting a little bit blurry. I'm not sure. Maybe you're a little further away from the modem now, or whatever. Oh. You're a little tiny bit blurry. But what was I going to say? So how long were you at 92Q? I don't know why I had to.
I've been at 92Q since 92, 93.
Right. So forever. Gotcha.
Yeah, forever. Ever.
So, but when we talked the other day, you were telling me about. I want to dig back a little bit into that. You and Icy Ice were throwing shows and stuff together back in the day. Like, tell us about that. What year was that?
I don't remember the years that I don't remember the exact years that we did that, but I remember Crystal Skate was still open. He had the ice box. He also had this. It's funny because he was a manager of Jerry's Sub over on Central Avenue, and he told me when he closed, he's gonna do a go-go. I was like, "Do a go-go in the Jerry's?" He's like, "Yeah, they're gonna come." So at that time, I had done a show down in DuPont Circle with Chuck. I put Ray Essence in the East Side on Wednesday nights. I worked that deal out, and I was doing other stuff. And he had Miss Pratt. He had Northeast Groovers, and he was telling me, "Man, this group is hot. They on fire. They gonna be this. They gonna be that." And he was promoting. He was putting out. He was getting the glow posters and putting out the posters and stuff everywhere. And I went to one of the shows, and I was like, "You're right. You're right." I said, you got something here." So he kind of brought me in. And one of the things I did skip was that at Crystal Skate, Alfred Liggins and I, he had Chuck Brown. Mm-hmm. And I would take him out at night and hang the go-go posters. At first, he didn't,
What do you mean by he had Chuck Brown? He was working with him, or he?
Yeah, absolutely. We did the first go-go with Chuck Brown at Crystal Skate. Sold it out.
Gotcha.
He's now the CEO of Urban One, Radio One, but yeah, he and I told him, I said, "Man, we gotta get some posters." We got the posters, and I took him out in the middle of the night Yeah, we put them posters up everywhere, and next thing you know, Crystal Skate sold out. So yeah.
What did you say his title was again? Now he's the what VP of?
He's the CEO and president now.
CEO and president of
Urban One.
Of Urban One, and he started early on putting up posters for Chuck Brown shows at Crystal Skate.
No. He was a sales manager at the radio station, but he wanted to do a go-go. So, that's what we did.
Okay, gotcha. But see, so even I guess that makes the story even better. Even as sales manager, he was still out there putting up posters in the middle of the night with you. So it's just the reason I sort of harp on that is because I want to like get across to anybody that is trying to be in this business, like what it takes to be in this business and how how hard you have to work. And that even when you think that somebody is at a certain level, they're still grinding and hustling and trying to make it work. And I think a lot of people just have an overly glamorized version of how they think this business works. They just think you just have a little bit of talent and then somebody presses a button and you become famous, and that's just how it works. And that's just not.
Yeah, not at all. And plus with go-go artists, man, go-go artists, some of the most talented artists in the country. They can play any genre of music because even when they cover songs, they just have that pocket with the song. It's still, for example, it's still a Jill Scott song, but the pocket makes it is what brings the go-go into it. I mean, all the people that have done go-go music that people don't know about. Herbie Lovebug was one of the first people to jack go-go music with Salt and Pepper.
Yep.
Kid Play and Salt and Pepper. A lot of their music is based off the go-go rhythm.
My mic sounds nice and all that's go-go. And then even Rick Rubin with all the Trouble Funk samples he took on Rock the Bells and everything. A lot of early go. That's one of the things that I wish the documentary would have touched on a little bit more was the impact, the early impact that go-go had on hip hop and how some of the biggest songs, not even just early, but even throughout the years with Nelly, Hot in Here, or Beyonce, or the Rich Harris stuff, or whatever. Rich Harrison.
Yeah, a lot of those girls. A. Marie. It's a lot of people that have taken the sound and let it go international, but not giving the local credit to go-go.
Right. Right. Well, I don't know. Do they? I don't know if they don't give the credit or not, or if they just. I mean, I don't know how they would, like, what else they would do to give it credit. I mean, like for example, Wale, obviously he shouts out go-go and everything that he does, but people are still mad at him for not doing it exactly the way that they want him to do it. I'm not sure what else they want him to do, but it is what it is. But so you mentioned a term earlier that I just want to clear up for some people, which is PD. And so PD means program director. Can you break down what a program director's job is?
Well, a program director is the person that is in charge of everything that goes on in the station, and that except for sales and stuff like that. Everything that goes on the radio and out the airwaves to the people is program director's job, including music, making sure the music is right. Even if the music director brings the song in and says this song is going to be hot, it's up to the program director to say it's a go to put on the air. You can't just. When I was programming on WOL, you could walk in like James Funk would come from the studio and bring me acetate and tell me they just finished it, and I could put it on.
Right.
And once other people got into programming, they wanted to have control of that, because when you have control of that, then you have control of the people that are trying to bring you the music. But the program director can say yay or nay to the song, even if it's the hottest song in DC. They can hold the song up until you do something they need you to do. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that the program director handles that. From commercials, how commercials sound, if they sound too grainy, if they sound too sexual in content, the program director can say that's not on. So the program director handles everything that goes on the radio and comes out the speakers to your car, your house, or wherever.
So my question related to that, because there's a lot of angst in the go-go community about the purported lack of support, specifically in more recent years, that the radio has shown to the program, or to programming go-go in DC. And I mean, a lot of that, you and I coming from radio understand that a lot of that is coming from the corporatization of radio, the conglomeration of radio, and the fact that a lot of the program directors are not from DC and don't have context into the culture.
I was going to say it's more so the program directors don't know go-go. They don't know go-go. They may come from someplace where their music that they grew up on is hip hop, club music, or house music, or whatever, and that's what they can relate to. So yeah, it's kind of hard to say, but I know some program directors at times, I won't say who they are, wanted to kind of get away from go-go. And at that time, I mean, go-go was at its height and more people were getting into go-go, but they just want to get away from it for whatever reason.
So do you have any insight into what that reason was?
No, I don't exactly know, but I know for a fact that I know you were saying that there were some questions about Miss Hughes and Miss Hughes always wanted to keep go-go on the radio. I know for a fact she was the first morning show person to bring Chuck Brown on consistently to talk about go-go. And if you search your archives and stuff like that, you'll see that she had Chuck Brown in the studio quite often on the corner of 4th and H, right in the hood. And I will say straight up that no FM station, not a PGC, not a KYS, not a Jay Stevens, not a Albie D, not a Paco, not a Donnie Simpson, not nobody played go-go before Kathy Hughes and Alfred allowed go-go to be played on the radio. Nobody.
On WL. So where does that story come from then? Because I've heard it multiple times from multiple people that Kathy Hughes said, shut down go-go, no go-go, and we don't want go-go.
Well, no, she didn't say shut down go-go at a time. And I know what you're talking about now, but at one point in radio, there was this decision that had to be made in order to take Radio 1 at the time, back then it was called DMV Broadcasting, to another level. And that was to have a talk station, an all talk station, and buy other stations to eventually put go-go on and do some other stuff. And me as a young kid, I mean, I didn't see the vision at the time, but 76 radio stations later, which now she has, I think, 56, you can see that because go-go is still played on KYS and Magic, some of her other stations that she owns. But at the time, she had to make a decision in order to get sponsors and advertisers, and people don't know the inside story. In order to move WOL forward, which was a talk station at the time that just had go-go at night, she had to evolve. And she was in a format arena as a female with a talk station, and she wasn't taking no for an answer on far as getting advertising and building her business.
Gotcha. So it was a format flip, which happens fairly frequently in the radio business all the time. If anybody remembers, 99.1 used to be WHFS alternative station, and then it flipped over to El Zol. And so that kind of thing happens fairly frequently. So from what I'm understanding, I just want to clear it up because a lot of people think this. A lot of people think that, that Kathy Hughes wanted to pull the plug on go-go, and then also, and sort of look down their noses at the fact that she produced this documentary and showed that she, was such a supporter of it. So this is good information to have to clear that history up, that it was just nothing more than a format flip, and that she, put go-go on other stations once she owned these other stations.
Well, when you're on the outside looking in, you don't know the inner workings of what's going on. I was on the inside looking out.
Right.
And I was young. I was probably 19 or 20. I don't remember. I know I was young, and I was just like, what's going on? And as I look back now that she has these other stations and they are playing go-go, that was her goal. You have to, for example, if you yourself are doing what we're doing right now, but you have this right now, and as soon as we finish, you start playing music, and then after that finishes, you go back to talk, and you ask somebody for some sponsorship, they're gonna say, well, what are you? Who's your target audience? And if you don't have a target audience or a bottom line for your advertisers to understand, you're not growing, because they're not going to give you any money. And she had a plan for the talk station to fuel everything else. That's why WOL is still around, and there's a WOLB in Baltimore, because her talk stations have made people like Bernie McCain, Joe Madison, the Black Eagle, Senator Larry Young in Baltimore, Al Sharpton. They are all on her talk format.
Right.
And now the go-go and stuff is on the musical formats.
Right. Gotcha.
You know, so, I mean, people, I understand people being upset about it because they didn't know. And at the time, people that were in go-go, that was their only outlet. Because, you know, even though 1580 was there, it wasn't working. They didn't know what they were doing over there. And I was trying to tell everybody I sent over there. Luckily, Flex survived the blow up, but because Flex was good at what he did. So, and he had that voice.
Right. Real quick, I just want to remind everybody that's on Instagram, head over to youtube.com/GOGOTIX. You'll be able to see the other side of the conversation. I know you probably can't hear Konan very well over here, so make sure you head over to youtube.com/GOGOTIX, and you'll be able to see the other side of this conversation. So I want to dig in.
What's wrong? My stuff messed up. My mic messed up.
No. I'm just saying from my phone. They're looking at my phone.
Oh.
And you're coming out of my computer on the actual feed.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so the Instagram is on the phone. So now you do look a little choppy, but we can see you and we can hear you fine. So that's good.
So I would have put my phone on if I'd have known it was on the phone. I could have did it on the phone for you too. I'd have did that too.
No. I just do that because I started doing the show on Instagram. So a lot of people still tune in on Instagram, and I just got to let them know to head over to YouTube where the actual show is. There was too many technical difficulties that happened with Instagram when I was doing it that way. So that's why I moved
Maybe I can do that.
Moved it over to YouTube. So, but digging into what you were just talking about, because it's something that's sort of second nature to us, but some people may not understand the target demographic. So you're talking about how radio works in terms of, and it's not just radio, it's just any business, including GOGOTIX and Gogotalx is geared to speak to a specific audience that has a certain amount of interest, and most of those people fall within a certain age group. Sometimes they fall within a certain gender, sometimes they don't, sometimes it's both. So what you're saying is that WL flipped because they were trying to make another move, and that what they were flipping to, the target demographic wasn't people that listen to go-go, so they moved that somewhere else. So later on, however, these other stations, PGC and KYS respectively, would play go-go an hour a night, 30 minutes a night, whatever. Occasionally a song, like Welcome to DC or something like that would break out, Sexy Lady, and would play more often. But primarily it was relegated to a small sliver of the evening. And you
know what?
Go ahead.
That to me, that was flat out disrespectful, but they still supported those stations for doing that because they were happy to get an hour. It's just like I don't understand how we get happy about, and because I don't, but I listen to people get happy about Black History Month.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here 365 days a year. I'm here 24/7. Why do I have a month?
Right.
And why do we talk about people having a month when there's no such thing as to me, Black History Month. I don't get all hyped up about Black History Month because we were all a part of Black history. We're all a part of living history. We're all a part of history. So for them to give go-go an hour just to appease people and have people say, oh, we got our hour. But now you got for example, you got 10 go-go groups with records. You're only gonna get to play 5 or 6 of them because the records are so long and everybody's mixing and stuff. So now you got to wait till tomorrow for the next hour to see if they get to the other half. It could be mixed in just like regular format. Every other song, since you're only playing 20 songs anyway, the new program system is 20 to 40 songs, which I don't understand because there's so much music that's missed.
Mm-hmm.
I had somebody, and I won't say who the person is, I had somebody take an idea from me. I made a call, and I had my boss at the time, Al Payne, on the phone, and we called somebody in the and I said, listen, man, I said, this is what could be done on Magic. There's this gap of music that's missing that 92Q can't play. I was like, so this is what you do. You can chop it in and put it in. You can take the old hip hop on Magic along with, mixing it in with the other songs. And I never got to finish the conversation. It was just like, oh, well, that's not going to work. That's not going to happen. And then the next thing I know, I'm hearing that we're doing something similar to that. But I never finished my thought process. My thought process was to be able to go from a Frankie Beverly and Mays to Bonita Applebum,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe a Jill Scott or something. But it has to flow.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be the music can't flow like that. But it was supposed to be a flow. And then the next thing I know, I was like, and I heard it, and I was like, that's not going to work. I was like, because you can't oversaturate a group of individuals that are supposed to be 30 and over with just all hip hop and not have Frankie Beverly and Mays or have a song that is familiar to them, like a Luther Vandross, which is, I don't know why that's missing the music right now, but some of the songs and things that were in my head that I never got a chance to explain.
Mm-hmm.
All that music got missed because that would have been the glue to hold 40, 50, or even 55-year-old to the radio, even after they heard a Bonita Applebum, even though that might not have been their song, but the next song coming up is a Luther Vandross song or a Frankie Beverly and Mays song, and it merges together.
Right.
So I mean, who am I?
Well, so the reason I was trying to dig into the target demographic and the hour and all that is because at least when I was at PGC, the target demographic was 18 to 34-year-old females, meaning our target, the people that we wanted to listen to our station and that were mostly listening to our station was 18 to 34-year-old females.
And the sweet spot is 27-year-old females. That's the sweet spot.
Well, that's what I was going to ask is what is it now? Because even in programming, with that being said, anymore?
No, I apologize, but with that being said, 1834 is still demo, and women do kind of drive the radio, but the sweet spot will be a 27-year-old to 30-year-old female, which will drive that demo, which is 18 to 34. At nights, of course, you're going to skew a lot younger. But now that can even be skewed a little higher, but nobody's really trying it because nights is so hard and edgy. I listen to how they do nights now, and it's just so hard and edgy. You lose the adults, which you don't want to do, because you still in my car. I'm still the adult. You still get in my car. So if it get too hard, we're gonna have to turn that off. Right. And you got to grow them up to be able to move through the genres of music. Because they are going to grow up one day and be 27 or 30 years old. So 18 to 34, you still want to be right in the middle with like a 27-year-old and not too much 30. So, you just have to, like you said, you have to have a demo. You have to have your target audience. And that's really what it is, 1834.
So what I'm trying to get a feel for is where does go-go fit into that demo right now? Because there aren't really that many 18-year-olds listening to go-go. And, if you move up into the 27s, they're listening to bounce beat. Bounce beat, to my knowledge, I mean, I've been gone for 5 years. I've been in LA for 5 years, so I'm not sure. But to my knowledge, it's not been represented very much on the radio. But you also mentioned something earlier when you were talking about the mix and putting it in, and you said that you can only get a certain amount of songs in because the songs are so long. And I know you weren't necessarily talking about go-go when you said this, but you're like, there's some songs and stuff that we can't play on 92Q, which I assume applies to go-go as well. And so my question is, are there things that, from your knowledge of being a program director, are there some things that if I'm a go-go band, right? If I'm say I'm a mid-level go-go band, or I'm a new go-go band, if there even is such a thing as a new go-go band, and I want to figure out not only how can I get my song in rotation at 95 and KYS, but how can I get my song in rotation at 92Q? Because the other thing that I hear a lot is that 92Q plays a lot more local music than the DC stations. And in my opinion, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't necessarily know if that's the case, but if that is the case, it's because the local music in Baltimore sounds more like national music from everywhere else, whereas go-go is very defined and very niche culture. And obviously people in Baltimore don't have the affinity for go-go that people in DC do. But if I'm going back to my example, if I'm a go-go band, what can I do to up my chances of getting in rotation?
Well, you have to stay original. You have to stay true to what you are. Just like a radio station has to stay true to who they are, even if competition comes into the marketplace. And at 92Q, the local artists that would get played when I was there, they sounded like Baltimore. They didn't sound like national artists because Baltimore club and house music is a part of their hooks. There's one guy, Damon Blue, and a few other people that really, took their sound to another level at the time. But with go-go, you have to be just who you are, and radio eventually has to catch up. I used to always say, and I was, saying this at one point to someone in program, and I said, radio is going to kill radio. It's not going to be the other way around. It's not going to be competition. It's not going to be Spotify. It's not going to be Pandora. It's not going to be all these other. It's our programming that will eventually hurt us because there's this much music. I would stretch my hands further when they go on the screen. It's this much music, but we're playing this much.
Right.
And we think the next hit comes from an artist that's already a hot artist. We think the next hit's coming from Beyonce. Beyonce's already established. Mm-hmm. Like bounce beat switched the way go-go sound. Mm-hmm. That was where the next move was coming from. And radio doesn't get ahead of those moves. They come after the move is already been made 6 months ago. I remember one time, and I got this from my daughter, and I never forget it. And at the time, Al Payne was a program. My favorite program director was Tom Calicoche because he was always ahead of what the record labels were saying was going to be hot. Right. He would tell us, your DJs, and he was on fire. He would be, if a song came out that was super hot and we didn't get it, mm-hmm. He would be on every call, like Konan, street DJs, you telling me how hot, and all these people I need to know which record they're saying is going to be hot before the record company calls me. And that's one of the reasons why I like him, because he will fight for us and say that. But now, I'll never forget my daughter one day, I'm on the radio, and I said, yeah, and it's the new such and such from such and such. And when I got off, she said, Dad,
that song's been out for 6 months.
No, she was like, you sound crazy. My friends and I were listening to you today, and you said this new song from such and such. I said, yeah. So my boss just put it in. She said, but look, I've been listening to that for like 4 or 5 months. I was like, what? So I go back to him, and I'm like, I say, Al, listen, we can't say new music because we are dating ourselves when we say. I said we have to say the latest from or something like that. We can't say. I said because it's not new when it gets to us. Yeah. I was like, who's doing it? And he's like, well, it comes from corporate. And I'm like, well, it's not new anymore. How are we saying new? And it's 6 months or 5 months old. I was like, the millennials and these new kids that y'all have coming up listening to the radio, they know that we're not on it. That's why they're tuning into their podcast, or the other forms of getting the information and music, because we're not ahead of everybody else, and we have to get back there. Radio has to get back to being in front.
So back to the analogy about the band. So if that's the case, if radio is behind, and your contention is that you need to stay true to yourself, which I don't think is a problem for go-go bands. They stay true to themselves,
right,
no matter what, regardless of whether it works or not. So it sounds to me like the best strategy for a band would be to go to these other platforms first, build yourself up there, so that then you are, because we're not going to fix the structural problems within radio within the next year. You know what I mean? And I think that it's important my opinion is that it's important for go-go at this moment to try to take advantage of any momentum that has been, been created by the Don't Mute DC movement, by the documentary that just came out, by, My Fatty is one of the biggest trending songs on TikTok at the moment. There are a few things going on that are pointing back to us, but traditionally what we've done is sort of squandered those opportunities. So what I'm trying to do is give some practical advice for anyone in go-go that is, that may be contemplating doing something like, what can they do to get the most bang for their buck? And I think that go-go bands automatically just think they need to go straight to the radio, and the radio is the thing that's going to break it. And the radio in these days is your last step. You should already be on these streaming platforms and building your audience on there, so that you have a story when you go to radio and say, we have something going on and you have some leverage. Am I right in that, or is that off base?
Yeah, exactly right. I think what you have to do is you got to create a buzz, because when songs catch buzz, or like they say, people break the internet, it's because their song already caught fire someplace else.
Right.
Akon, we found out about Akon, Sean Kingston, because their songs caught fire someplace else. And it's just like any other fire. As the wind comes, the fire moves and blows. So, a lot of people that understand go-go are in DC, so you have to get their attention, and like you said, it's hard too, because some of the programmers aren't familiar with go-go, and then some people are scared to be first. They want to be, outlets want to be first on news, and they should be wanting to be first on music as well, but unfortunately it's not to that point where everybody wants to be first on the hottest new go-go song or the hottest new club song in Baltimore. They want to wait and see what happens. They play it safe, and safe radio was taught from people who had opportunities that other people built for them, so they lived off of that legacy, or that hype of who they used to be. Like me, I used to be this person, but I try to recreate myself every time I do something, because the person I used to be, if I don't elevate and grow from that, then that means I haven't learned anything. And with go-go bands, they have to grow and learn and make sure that they evolve, but get more recognition from the streets and all these other platforms, so that when they go to radio can't say, oh, well, there's no, I got 1 million hits already from people listening to me on all these other platforms.
I'm sorry, but that was really powerful what you just said. Can you reiterate what you just said about reinventing yourself every day?
Well, the thing is that we're all meant to evolve. Like what you're doing right now is evolve. I've watched you go from marketing, promotions, to this, to that, and grow and grow and grow. And now you have this platform. We have to evolve, and you have to reinvent yourself. From WL to now, I've been a different person every time I decide to step out. And one of the things I would say, people are going to hit obstacles, but your obstacles should become stepping stones for you to step up to the next level. Don't think of them as roadblocks. They're obstacles that become stepping stones. You step on that one, you raise yourself up. You step on the next one, you raise yourself up. Every time you go through something in life, you have to reinvent yourself. You have to rethink what got you where you are, and how are you going to get to the next place. Right now, you're getting to your next place, and hopefully the go-go bands and some of these artists, they continue to do that because you have to evolve.
Right. Well, so that sort of segues into a question I was going to ask about. Obviously, working with someone with such a track record as Kathy Hughes, what are some of the things that you learned? Is that something you learned from her? What are some of the lessons of success, if any, that you could share that you learned from working with her over the years?
Man, I learned so much from her. I can't even tell you all the things I learned from her because I was always watching her and she never knew it.
Mm-hmm.
When I met Frances Cress Welsing and she did the book, The Miseducation of the African American. She did that book. I met Dick Gregory and Kathy Hughes, but I was always either reading my Bible at lunchtime or reading something else, but I was listening.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was watching her because she never gave up. I used to drive her and I used to ride. I would drive her to NAB, which is National Association of Broadcasters, down off of Connecticut Avenue, and I would sit in the car and circle the block.
Mm-hmm.
I watched her. She did a Take Back campaign with the Washington Post. Mm-hmm. She never gave up on anything she wanted to do. And I will say this, excluding nobody and including everybody, she is the strongest woman that I've ever met in my life because I watched her persevere through things like sleeping in the car. I watched her sleep in the car out front of the radio station and come in and get herself together, do her show and knock it out. So just learning from her to always evolve, always keep pushing, always keep going, never stop. I'm going through something now, but I can't stop on the things that I need to get done because, life is the journey of hard knocks are for real. And you have to go through that journey called life and deal with the hard knocks to come out on the other side and still be able to do what you need to get done because just like you got family, I got family. I mean, people still have to eat, bills still got to be paid, things still have to go on. But you have to persevere and just watching her go through her struggles. I was like, man, and we were in the hood. Age wasn't what it is now. They gentrified. People walking around freely. If you were white walking down 8th Street back in the day, you were over there for something, or you were going to get something.
Right.
So, 1 block over from us was Rayful Edmonds and his crew, and then Alpo and those guys were hanging out. I ran through, I was there, so I know some of those people. And Hughes doesn't know some of the stuff that I do know, but I mean, we had some people take some stuff from the radio station. And when I found out, I went down the block. I said, look, I get off at 12 o'clock. If y'all don't get the stuff back to the radio station, when I get off, I'm coming back down the block. So there were some things that, we went through that I watched her go through that made me believe that, men, if she's that strong, men have to be just as strong or stronger. I was always taught that women aren't as strong as men until I met her.
Right. Definitely not true. My wife is much stronger than me. I have to say that. So you brought up a point that is something that I haven't really brought up as much in this show, and I'm glad you touched on it, which is the gentrification of DC. How do you think that has affected, go-go as a, on a I'm sorry, my assistant is telling me, she said, can you turn your computer down a little tiny bit because you're echoing, or I guess I'm echoing on yours. We can see you clearly now, though. I don't know what you did, but you cleared that up.
No, I didn't touch anything. I'll turn mine down some though.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think it's me that's echoing on yours, but
no, it's your phone by your computer. It might be
no,
your phone by your
not that. That's on mute. Yeah. So, what do you think? What effect do you think that gentrification has had on the go-go scene in DC, for better or for worse?
For worse, they don't know what they don't know. You're thinking this is African music, or it's this beat, or it's this urban movement, because you see all these black people. So it's a culture shock for some of them. Just like if a kid who's never been to see U2 or Bon Jovi, you take him out the hood and take him to that event, it's gonna be a culture shock for him. It's a culture shock, but it's a movement that was already in DC before you got that. I described it on the last thing as indigenous. It was there since before me. I was born and raised in DC, so my father listening to Chuck Brown, like Chuck Brown, Herbie Hancock, all these artists, that James Brown, all these people that had that funk. And that's what DC. I mean, the go-go is. It's a pocket. It's funk. It's a rhythm. It's moving. They don't understand it. And like my mom, I told my mom and my dad, I said, I was able to make radio a career, and I can't be mad at you for not knowing what you did not know. They told me radio wasn't going to work. Don't do it. That music, you got to get a good government job and retire.
Right.
Like, what? So that was what they believe. So the people that are moving into DC that think they have privilege, they feel privileged. Like, we need to move this out of here. We can't have this in here. It was there on the corners and at the playgrounds and stuff long before they were there. So it hurts only because they don't know any better, and they have the influence of people that are in politics, except for the mayor, because the mayor not playing. She's not having it. So.
Well, so that's actually kind of I didn't even think of it before. It was kind of a strange, or like a conclusion that can be drawn there. So we talked earlier about the program directors and about how, most of them are not from here. And so they don't
know what they don't know.
So they come in, but, and we're talking about people that move into DC and they don't know what they don't know. Is it incumbent upon them to learn and to assimilate into the culture? Is it incumbent upon a program director that comes to PGC or KYS to say, I need to learn about go-go and I need to learn about what this is, in the same way that it's incumbent upon, not even just white people, but anybody that's moving to DC that's not from DC that may have an issue with the culture or the music? Is it incumbent upon them to assimilate to the culture of DC?
Depending on their ego and their attitude.
Right.
A lot of time, a title brings power to people. I've had titles, and it doesn't. The power doesn't mean anything to me. I've watched program directors or people that I thought were different people change when they got the power to make the decision. So if you got an ego, or if you want to be, if you feel a certain sense of entitlement now because I can make this decision, but before you were, we should play. Now I'm the boss. Now I don't feel like it because me and Malachi had a problem one time. Right. So it depends on ego and stuff like that, and people posturing. It's easier. For example, if a go-go person or a go-go band needs to get to a music director or program director, take them away from the radio station. Have a meeting with them. That way they can't posture. That way they don't feel empowered. That now you're having a regular conversation. But
so you take them away from the radio
the same way. But those people have to have humility too.
But so that's great, because that's what the question I was going to ask is I think a lot of bands don't, or even just independent artists in general, don't know how to what we call work a record. And so I want to sort of shed a little light on that. And if I understood what you just said correctly, you said if you're going to meet with a program director, take them away from the radio station, or try to. Is that what you said? So like go to lunch somewhere or something like that.
Go meet them somewhere. Because then they won't be sitting in their office posturing or letting you know who's in power because you're coming to have this conversation with me. I used to, when I was interim PD, I would always meet with people and talk to them. One of the things program directors made the mistake of is accepting stuff from people. I've never, ever, ever, ever in my life taken 25 cents or anything other than a lunch, or had an artist come do something for the radio station to play somebody's record. If the record's good, I would agree to give it a try. If it's good, if it's not good, I'm gonna tell you, it's BS. You need to go back and redo it.
Are you in the majority or the minority?
I'm in a very minority, very small minority. I'm in the minority like this because I never wanted to have an ego or be the person. I remember where I came from. I remember the struggles. It took me to get to the place that I was in, and to watch Miss Hughes' struggles made me grateful and taught me how to be grateful and taught me how to have gratitude and having different attitude, because here's a woman that ended up being the multimillionaire that I watched struggle all the way through there. And the first thing she does every day or every time I talk to her or I'm at an event with her, she gives praise to God and thanks him. And then she thanks the people that supported her, the community. And then she moves on with whatever it is she's going to do. So a lot of people forget that. A lot of people think it's them because they have the power, they have a title. I mean, it might be their first title, their first job where they had this power making decision. So you watch the head inflate, and then you watch the real person will show up, not the representative. The real person will show up when you put power in the representative shows up when Miss Hughes is around, when Alfred's around, when the bosses are around, the representative shows up. Hey, how y'all doing? And as soon as they go away, man, what you talking about? You know, the attitudes change. I watch people do it all the time.
Right. Well, so I think the one thing is that if you're an independent artist or you're a go-go band, chances are, I don't even know who the PD at any of the stations are now. I've been gone for so long, but you know, in my day it was Jay Stevens or Skip Dillard, who's at WBLS now. Like, you're not gonna just be some random dude calling up Skip and saying, "Hey, can I take you out to lunch so I can talk to you about my record?" So
you never know. Try it.
Well, I would say that it's worth giving it a shot. I mean, I'll be completely honest. That's something that I'm learning a little bit later in life. I'm usually a more cautious person, and I'm always trying to like not be annoying and not be too persistent and not piss people off. And I feel like sometimes if I would have just taken the shot, I would have been more successful at what I'm doing. So I definitely respect that. But so if say you reach out to the program director, they say, "No, I can't meet you for lunch. Come to the music meeting." How do those things work? And is it even, I'm just trying to sort of like play out a scenario for bands to say, because I just think there really isn't, and nobody is saying this is how this works. You know what I mean? So I'm a band. I just cut a record. I just cut Welcome to DC. We're talking that level of record. Obviously, it was in rotation for many, many months. So we're not talking about I just cut a song and you don't know if it's good or not. Just say that I just cut Welcome to DC. And I want to get it on the radio in 2020. What should I do?
You should try to meet with them, but you should also try to get it buzzing in the clubs and get it to Rico, Flex, or somebody that's from DC. Find a DC DJ. A lot of the DJs aren't DC DJs, so they don't know, how go-go fits or how go-go started or where go-go came from. You know, they like it. It makes a move, but you know, it's a feeling. Right. And where you're born and where you grow up, what you're introduced to becomes ingrained in you. And it's a feeling. No matter where I go, no matter what I do, I could go show you right now. I still got a PA tape for Rarsons at the Maverick Room. I mean, I still have. When I was in California, I was playing my go-go all the time. This guy from Chicago named Drew said, "Man, I need that." At first, he used to call it jungle music. Before he went back to Chicago, though, he wanted to tape. Yeah, I need to take that jungle music back with me, man. I go, "Oh, okay, all right." But yeah, the local DJs have to get it first, and the main ones right now that are from DC or from PG that no go-go, Rico, Flex, and a couple of people like that.
Okay, and then what do I get it to them, but they play it in the go-go show if it even still exists. Then what do I do to try to push it further along?
Oh, you got to keep at it. You got to keep at it. It's not going to be overnight success. None of us are overnight success. Mm-hmm. None of us. Not even Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart. A lot of people don't know Kevin Hart was out there for like 10 years. I remember Kevin Hart in some garbage movies before he ended up being the Kevin Hart he is now. So I mean, they got to keep at it. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon, and they got to keep going, and you got to keep going back at the same person. They act like it's a girl they courting. You got to court it. When you didn't just meet your wife and just get married. Right. You keep going at it until she said, all right.
Right.
It's the
Okay.
same.
So say I'm pushing it, and Rico and Flex and all these guys are playing it, and they're playing it on GoGo Radio. It's up on Spotify. Maybe it's getting a few streams on there. How do I, if is it possible, in your opinion, if my record, Welcome to DC was a bad example because it's about DC. So let's take Miracles, which I don't know if you know that record, but it was the one that came out right before Welcome to DC, and both of them were in rotation, heavy rotation at the same time. So Miracles, topically, it could have been from anywhere, but it sounds like go-go's, timbali beats. It's a breakdown beat, but it's closer to what the bounce beat would sound like now. Right. So assuming it's a song that doesn't have anything to do with this geographical area, the lyrics are totally agnostic when it comes to DC. There's nothing about DC or the local area in the song. How do I move that from, if I'm in the place where we were, where I had Miracles was getting like 60 spins a week between both stations. How do I then move that to Richmond, to Philly, to Baltimore, to all these places? Or can I, because it's go-go?
You can. And that the thing is that even DJ Cool, if I called him right now, he would tell you, you move south first, then you come back north. Right. Go-go has to go south first, and then you come back north. And the only other place here that you go is Eastern Shore, Salisbury, places like that, before you try to go to Philly, New York, or whatever. Now, Philly might not be as hard now because of Geo Scott and the Roots. Mm-hmm. But before that, you would have to go south first, mm-hmm. and then come back up. So right. With music, I think it's still got to be old-fashioned. I still handwrite letters. Mm-hmm. So, some people don't do that. But, I mean, I do some, like, if I need to really just send it to somebody that I do type some, but I put them on my computer. But other than that, I still write stuff. You still got to go find out who's in Richmond to reach out and touch, or who the DJs are to stop past and say, hey, man, look, I was checking you out. But you can DM them now because social media makes it so easy. Mm-hmm. But you got to get the record to them, whether it's a stream or whether it's something. But you have to be consistent and persistent. You gotta still follow up on your calls, still email, still do. You almost got to pester them to say, so they can say, look, man, let me just listen to this and see what I can do with it. Mm-hmm. Because you can't just let it sit.
So in your opinion, out of every go-go song that you've ever heard, what percentage of them do you think, just from a musical standpoint, would appeal to people in Seattle or Chicago or Houston if those records were worked in those markets? I guess what I'm trying to get to is
more than half.
Yeah, I want to say music and the fact that there aren't any really structured songs in go-go, or is the problem that those songs aren't being worked, or is it obviously a combination of both? But you know what I mean? That's sort of what I'm trying to get to.
Nobody's work will be in vain. Listen, I used to say this when I used to be in the street when I started doing parties. And I'm sure you've heard it before. Your grind is going to pay you for what you do. If you don't grind, you're not going to get nothing. If you grind, it's good. You can't cheat a grind. You can cheat a workout. You can cheat all other things, but you can't cheat your grind. If you cheat on your grind, guess what? You will see the end result. The end result will be what it is. So if you have a record, for example, My Mic Sounds Nice by Salt and Pepper, it was Salt and Pepper, but if they didn't move that record, it wasn't going to be accepted because it was so different from what they were already doing. That record was one of the records that I think that could have and should have. And if Max Kidd and all the other people, all the other players would have jumped on it, everybody would have known that was go-go right there. But if you're a go-go artist, man, you gotta. If you're in California, they got to either send it to you and then follow up and come out, because otherwise you're going to hear some of it and you're going to put it down. But then if you start asking them, just like reading a book, did you hear the part we said? Then you're going to know they didn't listen to it. Make them listen to it. You got to make them want to listen to it. If you and I say, look, we got this book, I'm gonna check this book out. You just sent me your book, I'm gonna check it out. Next time you talk to me, you ask me about chapter 3 or you ask me about chapter 5. Then you'll be able to know if I really read it. I watch some of these talk show hosts breeze through these book artists, and I'd be like, they didn't really read the book. They read parts of the book or read the back cover, the back page, the back of the book. Right, so they have a synopsis of what the book is, and they say, oh yeah, so when I read such and such, I'd be like, these artists, I mean, even the book artists don't say, well, what you think about chapter 6 when I said such and such?
Right.
You know, same thing with go-go artists. When you get that record, when you send that record out, or you take that record to somebody, you got to ask them, so what did you think about the beat? What did you think about the breakdown? What did you think about when I said this? I thought it was clever. I thought I was being clever. What do you think? Okay,
that's interesting. So that's something that, like, in your, like, with you as a program director, you would value an artist asking you what you thought about their
absolutely
work. Okay. Yeah, that's if they don't, I'm gonna know they're not passionate about it. They're just trying to be famous. They're just trying to get on real quick. Right. Well, so you said something about you have to make them want to listen to it, and that's something I spoke with somebody about the other day about. I don't remember exactly what the context of the conversation was, but we were talking about. I think it was Chris from the Washington Post, and he was talking about how, you know, go-go has been carried down through the years, and it needs to, the tradition needs to be carried on. And, you know, he's sort of like, there's sort of two schools of people. There's people that want go-go to stay DC's special little secret, and then there's people like me that want to expose it to the world. And I think Chris was in the corner of, he thinks it's cool that it's like this thing that only exists in DC. And while I certainly understand that, my thing is the kids don't give a shit about it anymore. So unless somebody makes it cool and does something to make it seem like there's a reason for doing it and there's some incentive to do it, then the tradition isn't going to get carried down anymore.
Well, you and Chris might be slightly wrong that it's created in DC. But if you go down Eastern Shore, they still play it. North Carolina, South Carolina, Atlanta.
Regional. Let me just say that it's regional. No, I know that obviously I know there are other places that play it, not just in DC. I mean, I'm in Minneapolis, and I grew up on it, and played it. We had bands, and there's a band in Florida now. There's a band in Atlanta or whatever. But we're talking about very small. Very small.
Right, I got you.
So I'm talking about, what my dream is. I want to see in 10 years a go-go artist is headlining Coachella. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Get to that point without having some measure of consistent success. And go-go has had certain sparks of success here and there, but hasn't ever really been able to make it consistent. And so that's what I'm always trying to delve into, is what exactly are the solutions to the problems that can make that.
Well, they have to see it too. They have to think bigger. They have to think bigger than DC. They got to think bigger than New York. They have to think about a Coachella. They have to, if they visualize it, they can make it happen. Chuck Brown did some of the biggest numbers in some of these places than anybody else. And Chuck Brown broke down barriers because he always believed that he could get in someplace once he put his mind to it. First person to get in, of course, the Masonic Temple. I mean, the headline Go-Go Live, stuff like that. I mean, I remember watching Erykah Badu or Jill Scott? One of them, I was hosting Merriweather, and Chuck went on. You can curse on here, right?
Yep.
Because she's like, oh, shit, I got to go after him?
Yeah.
Like, she said that backstage.
I ran into Raphael Sadiq at Target out here when I first moved back out here, and he was standing behind me in line. I was like, "You Raphael Sadiq?" And he was like, "Yeah." And we started talking, and I started talking about go-go. He said, "Man, I played with Chuck Brown." I told him I will never come on after him again, ever. Yeah. Right. So I mean, that's the thing. There's a lot of people in the industry, and I was talking with Fairleigh McCaskill yesterday. Susie Wan, she goes by Susie Wan. She's now the senior director of publicity at Atlantic Records, but she's from home, and she was Wale's publicist for a long time or whatever. And we just, you could just run down the list of all the people in the industry that know what go-go is. But it just hasn't reached to the fan base. And that sort of brings me to my last question, because I know that you invited me very graciously to the event that is every year around the BET Awards. It's on the rooftop out, across the street from the Staples Center. And so my question, it's full of all industry people, radio people, and DJs. What is your experience with people outside of DC who don't have any connection to DC but are in the industry? What is your experience with them and their knowledge and their feelings on go-go, if any?
Well, they all know about go-go, and they like the pocket, they like the beat. For some of the people that I know down south, it reminds them of for example, Florida marching band or the marching band at Clark or whatever. Yeah, all those big bands. So they look at it that way, but they still look at it as a form of music that's different. But it's a part of DC. But they do like it. It's just that nobody's really, like I said, nobody's pushing it to them. It's all like force feeding them. You got to force feed them a little bit, just so because once the go-go bug bites you, once it gets you, it got you. All it takes is for you to move your shoulder a little bit, and then next thing you know, you.
Oh, I know. It only took one show for me, and it's been the centerpiece of my entire life ever since then. So since I was 15, I feel you. But so, have you got any feedback? I mean, I'm sure you haven't been soliciting in it, but maybe if you have an analogy or something that you remember that, or an anecdote that you remember, like why would, say there's a DJ in Chicago or a PD in Chicago. If a go-go band was to do everything that you said correctly with this PD in Chicago, do you think that PD would play it, or is there something else missing?
I think if the PD got a good listen to it, and the record had some substance and wasn't just a continuous beat, I think it would play. And Wale is a perfect example of that. Wale's songs, they still got played across the country. And, you just have to have some substance now. You have to be saying something.
And song structure is what I'm saying. Because if it's just, and that's sort of what I'm getting at, is that there have to be songs. They have to be structured in the same way that every form of music that is played on the radio, unless you're talking about like a AM classical station or something like that, any form of popular music, whether it's hip hop, country, pop, rock, whatever, has song structure that obviously you can move those pieces around however you want, but there are specific pieces of a song, and go-go doesn't follow that format.
Right.
Straight up EDM doesn't follow that format either, but you don't hear them playing straight up EDM on the radio. You hear them playing EDM inspired songs. So that's sort of what I'm getting at. That's what Mambo Sauce was. The goal of Mambo Sauce was to do. Mambo Sauce was a go-go band, but the idea was to create songs. And because, in my opinion, what defines go-go is the beat. Because
absolutely,
people talk about the lead talker or the crowd call and response or whatever and that is a part of go-go. But the very first time you heard Jill Scott or A. Marie or Beyonce, "Crazy in Love," the very first thing you said is that's go-go.
Right.
And none of those other things were there except for the beat. So my contention is, doesn't matter what you put over top of it. If that beat is there, whether it's a bounce beat, whether it's a pocket, a socket, a breakdown beat, there's multiple different kinds of go-go beats. That's go-go. So make go-go, but make it a song so that somebody in Chicago can understand it and say something that somebody in Chicago would be able to relate to, as opposed to only certain chords.
I think the next generation of people that's going to come up and go-go, because you've already gone through the original go-go. You've already gone through Chuck Brown having Bustin' Loose to EU having, the butt, but people forgot that album EU had that almost killed them was it had a taste of love or honey on there and a whole bunch of other songs.
Your love. Yeah.
When they had Mike Muse, I mean, they were killing it, but that almost hurt them too. It's cool to do it in the go-go to slow everybody down for a minute, but when you start putting out the records, people are like, hold up, you know. But the thing is that this next generation, I think they will be able to take it there. But unfortunately, I believe wholeheartedly what I said, because 4 or 5 years ago, when I started watching how program directors were programming because they had to report it to corporate. See, this is what I'm going to say this, and hopefully some program directors or some people will get it. I used to tell somebody that was at corporate, because it's hot in DC doesn't mean it's going to be hot in Baltimore. Because it's hot in DC doesn't mean it's going to be hot in Texas. Because it's hot in Baltimore doesn't mean it's going to be hot in Atlanta. Yep. Everybody has their own region.
Yep.
And we have to treat it as such.
Yep.
Just like TV programming isn't programmed the same. I'm not watching the same show that you're watching on the West Coast right now.
Yep.
You have to program to your audience that is in that region, that lives in that region. And that's what I think that's what people mess up at. If a go-go song is hot, if it's hot, it can be played anywhere. It doesn't matter. But there are certain songs that you have to make sure are on the air in certain areas. And you can't just cookie cut one song and say, oh, this is Beyonce, it's going to be hot everywhere. It may not be. With Beyonce, yeah, they're going to give it a shot, but you know, the radio has to do better with programming and the program directors. They have to really, in order for radio to survive, because 4 years ago I said there was going to be a decline because I'm watching programming. I wanted to get back into programming so bad because I just wanted to make a difference, and I didn't want to do it for. I don't need the title. I don't even need the title. Don't give me the title. Just let me help, because I know that these areas, everybody's playing the same thing, and it doesn't make sense to me for the 20 or 40 records that we play. You can't do that across the country and think that you're going to have #1 stations all across the country.
Well, not only that, but now you have such competition with the streaming services. I mean, you know, and I agree with what you said, that streaming services aren't going to be what kills it, but I can go on a streaming service and listen to anything I want to at any given time.
But think about this, Malachi. If you went on a streaming service to hear something, but I had already played it 2 weeks prior, you're going to keep coming back to radio because I'm ahead of the streaming service that you have. Whether it's Tidal, Spotify, or whoever, we were so far behind that people start leaving us for the streaming services because the programming thinking was be safe. No, you can't be safe. You're in a war. In war, nobody tries to be safe. I'm not going to try to be safe if I'm at war. Right. If you and I are at war and you on the West Coast, I'm gonna be sending stuff to you before you send it to me. Right. You're gonna catch one of these bombs before you send one to me. I'm not gonna wait for you to bomb me.
I give. Don't bother.
Yeah. So you know, radio has to be first. Not first to give out wrong information, first to play the music so that kids and young people and adults come back and say, y'all just playing this on Pandora, y'all just playing this on. I heard this on KYS, or I heard this on Magic, or I heard this on 92Q 2 weeks ago. We got to get back to wanting to be first and serve our people along with disseminating information, and that's where radio will thrive and give itself another 5 years and to evolve into something else. Because just like go-go bands, you got to keep on. They got to keep on. This next generation of go-go people, they're going to come up with songs and structure, like you said. I'm gonna put my word on that.
Well, I'm working on it, so hopefully, and I know. And let me not just say that I'm working on it. I know other people are working on it, and I encourage other people to work on it because it's going to take more than just one. And I think that we have a lot of there's a lot of the mentality in DC. And I say this a lot, that if I win, that means you have to lose, and vice versa. And I don't think that's the case. There's enough out here for everybody, and you know, steel sharpens steel. So everybody that wants to go at it, just go at it, and then all that does is just make everybody better. You know what I mean?
And for those of y'all that do have music, y'all make sure y'all hit up my team, Radio Nation DJs with an S.
Hold on, I'm gonna put that up on the banner.
All right, RadioNationDJs.com. As a matter of fact, our group was so strong that, and I will say this, and that we had BET partnering with us for our after parties, the party I told you about.
Yeah. I came to two, I think. I came to two of them, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, and it's every DJ from across the country. We decided years ago that I'll tell you what happened. If you got time?
Yeah, I got it. We got all the time we want.
All right. So AJ, you my guy. You from these? You know you went to Howard, all that. But AJ, we on Vine Street and we going to this party, and it's a BET party, and they said be there by a certain time, so we tried. But we get to the party, me, Brian Dawson, a bunch of us, we all standing out front. And I mean, it's DJs from North Carolina, New York, everywhere in between. New Orleans, Wild Wayne, all of us. We all out there. And AJ walks up. Excuse me. Get to the front door. And AJ said, "Hey, what's happening?" He said, AJ, he said, I'm supposed to be one of the hosts for the party. Big white dude at the door. He said, uh-huh. He said, you on the list? He said, on the list. He said, I'm hosting the party. He said, I'm AJ from BET. He said, I don't watch TV. I said, we not getting in. I said, if he not getting in, we not getting in. So after that, we started doing our own party. We sat down and we said, listen, we are the DJs that help BET. We come from all across the country. We need to start doing our own thing. And that's the same thing we did with radio. We was just like, we need to come together and start doing our own events and all our own stuff. I mean, right now I have opportunities, but I love Miss Hughes so much, and Miss Hughes has been so straight with me that I'm gonna sit for a minute and deal with this COVID stuff and some other stuff I'm dealing with, and I'm gonna just wait for a minute. And Radio Nation DJs, I talked to them. We just had a conference call. Well, I talk to them all the time. I was supposed to do this thing with BET, and I slipped because I was dealing with something, and that was a couple of days ago. So anyway, we just like the go-go bands, man, we got to do stuff like this with people all across the country. And if somebody has a record or they have something they want to hit the Radio Nation DJs or hit me up, and I'll make sure Black, my liaison that handles all that stuff, gets it to all the DJs.
So they just go on the website, and is there somewhere to like upload tracks, or is there an email on there or something that they?
No, I mean, what we do is we try to make sure that all the DJs have a meeting of the minds. We're not going to force it down their throat. We all listen to it. Mm-hmm. It's by majority.
Gotcha.
So say for example, if it's 15 of us and 8 says they like it, it's a go.
Gotcha. So so how does somebody submit music to Radio Nation DJs though? Like if they want?
Oh no, you can go to the website. Yeah, you can go to the website.
Okay.
And Black from Atlanta, or myself, or Brian Dawson, or one of us. I mean, Flex is a part of Radio Nation DJs. Quicksilver, it's a bunch of us. It's a lot of us because we want to make sure that we keep things going. I mean, because
nice.
I hope program directors eventually get it together, man, because radio it should be forever. Radio should never, when these streaming services play out or these websites play out or Black Planet or MySpace actually still around. I actually looked on it.
Really? I had no idea.
I didn't either. Somebody told me. I was like, no, it's not.
Black Planet is too?
Huh?
Black Planet is too?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Global Grind, all of them are still around. But the thing is that
that's JD's thing, right?
Yeah, we have to keep this radio. Radio has to keep radio going. Right. Radio should outlast TV. Radio was around before TV. It's no way that radio should be killing itself or letting programmers or people that don't know the market. It's just like police officers. God, forgive me for jumping around, but I want to say this. This is a perfect example. I had a meeting with the mayor in Baltimore and the police department. I said, the problem is you bring in these outside police to run your city when you should have the outside police work with Malachi, who lived in Annapolis, that person that grew up in Malachi's neighborhood or in that vicinity should be running around with that out-of-state police to show him how to work in that neighborhood.
Right.
Same thing with programming and music. Each market should have somebody from that market helping to at least guide people or give a constructive ear on how the city or the makeup of the city and how the sound of the city works. Right. You can't just be willy-nilly and think you're gonna figure it out from research. I remember me and Jay Stevens had this conversation one time. He was telling me the most researched songs, blah, blah, blah. I said, Jay, who's doing the research? No, really. And if he's looking at this or he hears it, he'll tell you. I said, who's doing the research? Is it a white guy at Scarborough or someplace, or is it a 30-year-old black guy in a research firm? Because if it's a 30-year-old black guy, then you and I can talk. Right. But if it's not, I don't want you to tell me how Baltimore is going to work, because you're asking me to do something that I'm not comfortable with. And he said, well, Ms. Hughes told us to ask you. I said, okay, cool. That's how I ended up in the 10-2 slot. How amazing. I mean, my GM and Jay said, Ms. H said she wanted me to make that move. And I said, okay, but this is how it needs to be done. Mm-hmm. Between 10 and 2, they had trap music all through this girl, Kiki's show. And I was just like, that Kiki didn't kill the show. She's a great personality. The trap music at 10 o'clock in the morning is what killed the show. Right. I don't think you work in a warehouse. You got to turn trap music down at 10 o'clock in the morning if your boss walk by. Right, right. 10 to 2 should be office music just like everybody else. Music that you can turn up if you're in the office and you're not going to offend anybody in the cubicle or the office next to you. Right. So with that being said, there has to be a certain amount of responsibility in programming that makes sense. And you have to have somebody that's from that community or somebody that's from that city help police the police, which is help police the program director to help him make the right safe decisions. Because if it don't work out, guess what? The program director gonna get fired anyway. Right. So you got to have somebody around you that knows the music. You got to have a Malachi or Andre or a DJ Flex or somebody that knows what the sound sounds like to say, okay, yeah, that's good for here. Well, so I mean, I think that stretches across multiple things, and it's funny that comes up, because I think the challenge with that is I think the companies do that. And they try to, and they systemize things, because it's how you scale a company, is by systemizing things that work the same way across your company. But it is a very interesting point that when you're dealing with stuff that has cultural impact, whether it's police or whether it's music or whether it's this, Brooks, who's one of the producers with the company I just put, that I just started, said no dope cooking at breakfast, talking about you playing trap music at 10 a.m. but I think that's a larger and important point, and one that I've been sort of going back and forth with a friend of mine is how do you identify those people? Like, say for example, when I was at the casino, I was the one that brought all the go-go bands there. I remember. The Cordishes are not gonna just say, yeah, let's have go-go bands at the casino. Sounds like a great idea. They don't even know what the fuck it is. Right. So I was the person that did that. But it wasn't like the casino hired me because they knew that I had this connection to go-go or to even the local community necessarily. I was already working there in another position, and they knew I was into music, so they moved me over, blah, 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 blah. But right. Say you're Kathy Hughes, and you have, are starting a new station in Houston or whatever. How do you identify who that person is that can be that liaison to the community within a place that you're not familiar with? You do local research. You talk to whoever is supposed to be your boots on the ground, just like military. That's the way. When I think about things, I think sports analogy. I think military, because I have the book The Art of War and all these other books that make sense. You get the local people to say, these people, for example, I'll give you a perfect example. I'm glad you asked that. In Philly, when people wanted to go back into Philly and recreate radio, one of the first names came up, Lady D. My DJ, Jay Ski, Kevin Kev, all these people that were names in the market. You got to get a name in the market to say, I'm gonna steal this person, and I'm gonna let that person tell me what I need to do and how I need to do it. I'm not gonna let them dictate the moves, but give me the scope of how things are here, so that I can make sure that I'm in line at least. And then I start finessing and start making sure that I put the right building blocks in place after that.
Right. So that sort of leads me to another question, which is, and this came up in the other conversation that I had, because I ended up being obviously that liaison for GoGo for the casino, and I'm sort of that liaison for City Winery right now as well. But I am obviously cognizant of my complexion. In your opinion, what is the role, or what should the role of white people in Black music and culture? What should it be, or what should it not be?
It depends on how competent they are. You obviously your level of competency is different than the average suburban Potomac white kid, because that's not where you were. So if they're gonna be if they understand and can listen with empathy and not be, if they're not gonna be an asshole and they can understand what really is really going on, then that could be the person for the job. Okay. But you have some people that have complexes, whether it's with height or power or whatever, that want to demand and get respect by fear instead of getting respect by what they have here.
Right.
See, you have the respect because it's here, and people can tell that when they talk to you. People can tell that when they meet you. I mean, and I'm sure there's times that you might have to be stern, but you're humble enough to be approachable. Some people aren't humble enough to be approachable. I have somebody used to always say they had open door policy, but the policy wasn't really open door. It was their way or no way, you know. Right. And but they say that because it sounds good for the uppers to hear that. Oh, I got an open door policy all the time. They can just walk right in. Not really. Right. But nobody's going to tell that that's not really, because nobody wants to blow back from saying that's not really how it is.
Right.
I know I didn't want it. I could make phone calls to some people, but I didn't want to bother them with the phone calls. I would just be like, you know what, I'm not going to say nothing, because, you know, you got to pick and choose. You got to pick and choose. And with the question you asked, I mean, you have to. There's a lot of with Damon Dash, and a lot of people say culture vultures that would steal from our culture. But we can always tell the legitimate people by the way they carry themselves, the conversations they have. Some people can't really talk about go-go and hip hop because they're just there for the money. They're just there to take it and run with it, or steal it, or say they were a part of something that they watched grow. That wasn't you. You actually played in the go-go band, and you actually lived it. You was actually there.
Right. Right.
Some people might not know that, but yeah, you were there. It's not like you were sitting on the step listening to it. You were there.
Right. I mean, that's how I feel, but I'm also aware of the times that we're living in, and I have a friend who is, you know, constantly reminding me of my of my complexion and my place within. You know
what, Malachi? Don't let them do that to you, because there's a guy named Timmy, Northwest DC, Black apartment building, only white family in there. Timmy today probably had a certain amount of privileges that we don't have, but Timmy could always walk back in the hood and come hang out with us. So, you know, if you are who you are, that's not going to change. The way you talk is not particularly like the average white person that grew up in Potomac or another place, you know? So we can tell when we talk to a person. Just
Right.
like you can tell where a black guy that grew up in, around a bunch of people in Boston or New York or a white family, you can tell. We can
Right.
just tell.
Right. Right.
Everybody can't have swag. Everybody can't be cool. But if you have it, we like, oh yeah, Malachi. We say it like Bill Clinton. He one of us. We'll say it. So
Right.
tell that guy to stop trying to make you feel that way.
Well, I wasn't trying to make it about me. I really was just trying to make it more about like what is, in these times that we're in, like what is because it is sort of difficult to navigate sometimes, and some people can't tell, and but you just trying to, everybody's trying to make it through the best they can these times, and so yeah, so I just wanted to see what your thoughts were on the greater, because obviously there's a lot of people that look like me in radio, and
Right.
so I just wondered what your thoughts on that were. But
Well, some of them don't know, and you can't blame them for what they don't know. They went to school, they got degrees, they know numbers, they know other stuff. They just don't know the music part. They don't know what our people should be listening to. I had somebody try to tell me that what our people, I shut them down immediately. And I'm never insubordinate, but I'm direct and stern about what I believe. They knew more. A white person wanted to let me know they knew more about what our culture wanted than what I was like, oh, really?
wow.
I'm gonna let you tell me about that then, because I want to know. They were so far off that I was just like, I didn't even make a comment. I just say, oh, okay. I let them go on. I was like, oh, okay. Because that's what the research said. Oh, okay. Okay. I didn't even want to correct them because I wanted them to say it to somebody else. I wanted them to accidentally say it to their boss.
Right, or something. Yeah. Oof. Yeah, that's rough. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate this. Was you stuck around way longer than I thought, man. I appreciate it, man. It's always good to talk to you, and
You too.
I hopefully we'll be able to do the you'll be able to do the Radio Nation DJs party again sometime within the near future, and I'll be out here. Always,
absolutely.
Yeah, always good to see you. Tell Lana and the kid that said hello. And,
okay.
I'll talk to you soon, man. Appreciate it.
All right, Malachi, I appreciate you, man. Keep doing your thing, man, and stay focused, be well, and be safe.
Indeed, you too, man. We'll talk soon.
All right.
All right, thanks, man. Appreciate it. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. That was Big Brother Konan, legendary broadcaster in the DMV, DC, Baltimore area. So if you have music and you want to get it out to a group of DJs across the country, you can go to RadioNationDJs.com and get that out to them there. Again, go get your Go-Go as Fuck t-shirts at gogotix.co/shop right now. Hopefully, I'm hoping that pretty soon on gogotix.co we will have some shows back up again pretty soon. But in the meantime, you can check out the schedule for next week. Wednesday, we have Cam Poles, the manager of Black Alley. And I'm sorry, I'm doing a bad job here. I didn't have my calendar pulled up to see who else is coming up next week. Let's see, who do we have next week? We have Cam from Black Alley, I know, on Wednesday. Oh, on Thursday, we have Funky Stuff Wink himself from JYB, Junkyard Band, legendary Junkyard Band. And then on Friday, we have Charles Stevenson, the former manager of EU and author of The Beat is Go-Go. I think I got the name of that book correct. But yeah, so make sure you tune in next week. Every Wednesday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Follow us on GetGogoTix on Instagram or gogotix.co on Facebook, or just visit gogotix.co on the web. And thank you guys very much for tuning in. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.